Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Rivet and Clank. So we're off to go find the other half of the stuff we need to fix the Dimensionator. Yay.
Uh, I felt a disturbance in the farce or whatever. It was like so many voices screaming out in terror before being suddenly silenced or some shit like that. Basically, this planet's been fucking destroyed. Um,
you turned their volume down and you couldn't hear them anymore? Okay.
Well, this stage does two interesting things. One kind of in a mood way, the other in a technical way. So we'll get to some of the more technical stuff, but I guess we'll get to both as we go along. But functionally, okay, so this is very low gravity, which Ratchet has done a few times.
Ratchet has had these kind of like out in space sort of mood levels from time to time, yeah.
And you can just breathe in space. Okay.
Well, no, if you look on their model, whenever I see their face, they have a thing over in their mouth.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, they can survive in the vacuum of space.
Technical SSD.
Ooh.
Are we time traveling?
No, we're dimension hopping.
Oh, all right. It's kind of like the natural extension of that time travel mechanic from A Crack in Time that I mentioned.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So there's a destroyed version and a non-destroyed version.
Just
Yes.
play the Chrono Cross world map theme here, please. Not the cheery one from the home dimension, but the sad, depressing one from another world. It's the only one anyone will ever write. It's the remaster just came out, so it's a good
Yeah,
time.
it just came out. There's like a bunch of games coming out though.
The best thing about the remaster coming out is that it forced Nintendo to finally recognize the broadcast of Teleview existed.
Wait, really? Oh,
Yeah, because it has the Radiant Historia, is it?
wait, that was on the Satellaview? I thought that was like
no, it's basically just a visual novel thing.
Oh,
Okay.
Radical Dreamers, I think.
Radical
it's called.
Dreamers,
Yes.
sorry.
Oh, well, if I can, actually, you for a moment. They did acknowledge the Satellaview in the port of the Famicom Detective mystery things, because they had the SFC soundtracks for those. And that was only on Satellaview, if I remember correctly.
The Radical Dreamers visual novel is an interesting inclusion, though, because, like, there's a kind of, like, scrapped concept for Chrono Cross that they actually worked into the original Chrono Cross, into the Chrono Cross they actually, like, ended up making. Basically, there's a party member that you can optionally recruit for the mansion heist quest at the beginning of the game. His name is Guile. He's this sort of like dandy looking motherfucker in a mask who's a dark
Does he tell you to
type.
go home and be a family man?
He was originally supposed to be Magus from Chrono Trigger in disguise. He's written pretty much as Magus in the visual novel. I don't think it's ever confirmed that it's him in the visual novel, but he was supposed to be Magus, and this is a concept that that was supposed to be in Chrono Cross. I think his original name was slightly different than Guile, though. Later on in the game, you can find an audio log that's supposed to be from a different dimensions version of that same quest. And it's basically written as if that concept were still in existence, so it's cut content, but it wormed its way into like a little Easter eggy scene in the original game, in the final product. So that's cool. I kind of wish they'd stuck with it, but they decided to make Guile optional, and I guess it would have been dumb to make Magus an optional character in the sequel to that game. I guess
Aren't most of the characters in Chrono Cross optional, though?
all of them, fucking all of them, even
Because
Kid.
there's like 100 and something characters, right?
Even the character who appears on the cover is technically optional. She's still important to the plot, but you can go through the game without like ever having her in your party. You can just no-sell her every time she tries to join, and it's actually kind of funny. Pro tip: don't don't actually let Kid into your party the first time she asks. Just tell her no, because if you do, you get an additional party member, like when you go back to town, and then you get a chance to recruit Kid like half an hour later anyway. So, like,
Oh, that's some Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon bullshit, though.
the party member recruitment in Chrono Cross is actually like one of the more interesting mechanical elements of the game. It just comes at the drawback of all of them being kind of boring narratively. Like, the character that you can recruit by not accepting Kid's first offer to join you is the alternate universe version of Serge's girlfriend from his own home dimension. And, like, the scenes surrounding that when you first meet her are very interesting. But after she actually joins you, she just becomes that party member who smacks things with a cooking pot. So, yeah. Missed opportunities all around.
Chrono Cross is such a weird game.
It is a weird game, and I love it to pieces, but goddamn, some of the design elements piss me off. But
Yeah,
one of the cool design elements... go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, Chrono Cross is interesting to me in the sense that it's an interesting original game that seems to live in the shadow of its predecessor a
Yeah.
lot.
Well, because they kept making a big deal that it kind of was a sequel, but it's really not, like 99% of the time.
Yeah.
It's just weird for me because just as somebody who played Chrono Trigger a lot later, I never really got what made it super special. Like, I understand why people like it because it is a very polished and well-made game. It ultimately is just a Dragon Quest game with Final Fantasy combat and like a time travel story. Like, all that's really, really good. But it's just, I never got what made it so special, I guess, is the big thing. So to me, Chrono Cross, it looks really interesting because of all the weird and different stuff that it was trying to do, but a lot of people just wanted a real sequel to Chrono Trigger, which they didn't get. So, it's just, my relationship with the game is very different than I feel like a lot of other people's.
I
Is interesting
understand
to me.
that. I'm kind of in the middle as far as Chrono Trigger goes. I really like the game. It's a very technically impressive, well put together SNES RPG where all the pieces just click into place alongside each other in a really fun way. But it's also a bit too easy for my taste, which I feel is a lot of SNES RPGs are a bit too easy for my tastes, to be honest.
Yeah, most of them aren't super challenging from what I can remember.
Chrono Cross is interesting on a technical level in several aspects because, like, okay, yeah, it's got like 70 bajillion characters that are all narratively uninteresting. So how do you think it handles that when cutscenes happen?
They all have like the same dialogue for everything.
Yes and no. They actually have a system that translates lines of generic dialogue text into whatever accent or dialect a character speaks. So everyone has like a unique way of speaking, but they'll have the same dialogue, which will be like scripted out with whatever speech patterns they have. So imagine
That's interesting.
Imagine recruitable Jar Jar Binks in Chrono Cross. He would have the same dialogue as everyone else, but he'd be throwing we says and he says and she says.
That's
and
that's
the
a
hell.
cheat code in Shovel Knight. Jar Jar mode is a cheat code in Shovel Knight where everybody just says like
It was a really interesting way to handle that problem at the time that Chrono Cross came out on the PS1.
The Paper Mario games would end up doing something similar, only because there's far fewer characters. They would just kind of like, okay, we'll write a line for Goombella and for Koops because
and
like that says mostly the same thing.
That's
just
kind of
with their
like
personality.
That's kind of like the way Mass Effect handles it. Like if you have different party members, different squad mates active at a time, most of them will have variants on the same line. Occasionally, one of them will have unique dialogue.
Yeah.
But like it's in Chrono Cross's case, they just had so many goddamn characters, and you're not going to recruit them all in one go. Like Oh God, I
Is it
remember.
even possible to recruit all
No,
of them?
no.
in
Some
one
of them
go?
will just like not join you if you have other party members. One of the famous ones is Glenn, who is named after Frog from the original game and has a lot of his attacks. One of the best party members in the game by far. But you can't recruit him if you save Kid when she's poisoned at the earliest opportunity. Yes, Kid is the anti-cool party member character in Chrono Cross for some reason because letting her into your party at the earliest opportunity always locks you out of some of the best party members. So you
Just have to be a dick to this character the entire game in order to get other party members to join you.
well, okay, Kid gets poisoned at one point. I think it's at the end of the mansion mission, and you have the option to go after the antidote right away, or to go pursue some other goal at that point. If you pursue some other goal, you'll go straight into town and you'll meet Glenn there, and he'll join you, and you'll find out that someone else just coincidentally brought the antidote to the poison to where Kid was later. So that's a thing. But you can go save Kid yourself, and you'll get a fairy character that's kind of cool, but you won't be able to get Glenn. So it basically results in you doing different areas in different orders, and getting different party members out of it is how it generally tends to work out. But like the only time it's like a sheer one or nothing choice is with the girlfriend character, because you'll get Kid anyway, but you'll miss out on recruiting Lena if you bring Kid with you to town, because she'll only join you if she sees you alone and decides to feel sorry for you. But if you've got someone with you, it's just like, yeah, okay, he'll be fine.
Isn't Kid like your... Hold on, I need to look up what
Kid is the scantily clad-ish thief girl who is on the cover of the box. And is,
Oh yeah, this is definitely like romantic love interest.
Yeah, she kind of
material
is.
going on right now.
She kind of is. She also has like one of the weirder connections to Chrono Trigger in the game.
Oh man, this CG, man, this like early PS1 CG is like so weird looking.
Actually, like Chrono Cross actually is fairly late PS1 CG.
Oh, okay, that's interesting because it looks like something earlier.
It's like it's less polished
shaded.
than Final Fantasy, but it's
sure.
better than Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
Man.
So yeah, it looked. I guess my mind has always been when somebody talks about Final Fantasy CG, I jump to, like thinking about like the stuff they started doing from PS2 onwards, where, issues with the many issues with Final Fantasy X aside, like that game looks very nice, so they had that going for it.
I mean, I'd say the CG in 9 looks good.
I don't remember. I remember like. Okay, I'm gonna
only issue
phrase it as it's more. I'm not as big of a fan of 9's art style, so
yeah, that's understandable. But the only issue with FF9's CGI from a technical standpoint is that it's on PS1, so it's really low res. But now that we have the remaster and everything's been up-resed, it looks really, really good. And the same is true of Final Fantasy VIII. If you can mod in some AI up-resed FMVs of it. They didn't bother to include that in the remaster themselves, though. Man, that remaster just bugs me every time I think about it.
Final Fantasy VIII?
Yeah, the Final Fantasy VIII remaster. I really wanted the Final Fantasy VIII remaster to be good, but they essentially just took a high-res, high-poly main party member model mod and slapped it on the existing PC version and called it a night. They didn't even fix the places where the PC version had notably lower res textures than the PS1 version, like the fucking roads on the world map and stuff. So
Yeah.
It's really weird. The PC version of Final Fantasy VIII has like all the same textures as the PS1 version, except for the road textures on the world map that you're supposed to drive cars down or walk down if you don't want to run into random battles. they're just like blurry, low-res gray textures for some reason, even though the PS1 version has like actual road textures for them. And I don't know why. It's such a weird exclusion, but like, oh no, I tell a lie. They slapped a better characters model on the PC version, and they also finally updated the crappy MIDI files. That's the other thing the PC version had that was weird. They never updated the music like they did for Final Fantasy VII.
Well, yeah, that's you can just tell how much Square cares about Final Fantasy VII versus Final Fantasy's not numbered 7.
Yeah, they had to try for Final Fantasy IX, though, because there was not an existing PC version for that. They had planned one and advertised one at one point, but they wound up canceling it, so it doesn't
Also,
exist.
9, whether Square likes to admit it or whether or not Square likes to actually admit it is a fan favorite. So
Yeah.
they couldn't afford to just half-ass it and expect people to be okay with it.
Yeah, but
Here's the thing, though. But with Square, like Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI are fan favorites, and they released terrible PC versions of both of those games. So,
Yes,
like they absolutely can do that if they think people will spend money on it.
The thing about Final Fantasy IX, though, is that they did not have a PC version to use as a base, so they had to make an up-to-date remaster. So that's why we got a decent one. I say decent because you still kind of need mods to make it like really worth playing over the original. I'm looking at Moguri. That's definitely one to look at. Just, AI upscaled backgrounds all over the place makes the game look fucking beautiful. Like, oh my god, it's just like Alexandria has never looked better.
There's still the rumor of the remaking 9.
Yeah, but it's nice to have like a properly remastered version of the original game.
Well, I'm just curious to see if we'll see that, and if so, is it going to be like in the 7 remake style, where it's a very different style of game, or if they're like just hard remaking 9?
Something that I'm kind of afraid of, but also like morbidly interested in seeing, is if they decide to remake Final Fantasy IX in a mono style, because like I was always fascinated by the illustration on the back of the frickin' manual. That's Amano's rendition of Zidane and Garnet, where they're like correctly proportioned and everything.
It's weird because some characters look fine like that, mostly the human ones.
But then you get
for the most part,
Kina
then
Ken and
there's
Vivi.
Yeah, and Steiner just looks very weird.
Steiner does look very weird, yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, everything else apparently from that so-called rumor / leak / whatever has been coming true. So it could be real, but
I guess we'll see.
it might be. I mean, for all we know, it's the thing they're going to show after they finally give us a date for like 16 and all that.
I just belatedly.
Which
Square
apparently
just hasn't announced anything in like a year.
Well, no, they have. It's just not Final Fantasy related.
I just belatedly realized that like we're like after opening this planet with a Star Wars reference, I completely ignored the fact that we've been journeying across Mustafar this entire time. It's a lava mine.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, it's Mustafar during the daytime, which is very rare.
It's Mustafar combined with the frickin' what's that region from Final Fantasy 14 with the giant fucking crystal?
Isn't that just like all of Final Fantasy?
No. There's a specific plot and important area that you arrive at late in the core quest, and it's like. It's notable because the town area in that place was basically the hub for all endgame activities until the expansion. Mordona, that's the one. Mordona. It's like Mustafar combined with Mordona.
I was going to say, don't ask me. I know nothing about 14 because I don't care about MMOs.
It's just like it's just like one of those things where it was at the tip of my tongue, but I could not remember the name because it's been so long.
The only MMO I have interested in has no plans for a worldwide release, and I'm very sad. Yes, Square.
Look,
let's sit through an 8-minute trailer of a Dragon Quest X expansion that you will afterwards say no plans for a worldwide release. Oh man, where the heck is my footage of freaking Dragon Quest 3 HD?
If people in the West really want to play it, they'll do what they did for Phantasy Star 2 for ages and just have like private servers and stuff. And you'll be able to play it anyway.
Listen, all right. If they make one of those controllers with the keyboard in the middle, like they have for GameCube, but it's also like the slime controller for PS2, then I would spend whatever money I need to get one. So Square, listen, you know I'm weak. Just do it, all right? All right, call me.
Square probably doesn't want to release Dragon Quest X
No,
worldwide.
they don't want to. They don't want to like compete with themselves. You know,
Yeah,
just, like,
I mean, there
spend
are-
all that money translating that huge ass game and then have it compete with the best selling game they've made in 20 years.
They're
Yeah,
already
no.
having trouble getting people to play Final Fantasy XI regularly. Like, there's a new login campaign for that game every 2 weeks. So,
I'm surprised they're even bothering at that point.
Well,
Like,
it's still got a popular player base, and it does cater to a style of Final Fantasy MMO fan that specifically do not like the direction Final Fantasy 14 took. So it has its niche, but like, there's also the fact that it's already made. They might as well keep doing it. It's like one of the
Yeah.
least technically demanding games they have. They probably even run it off the same servers.
yeah,
but-
I know. It's just also like people have been asking very nicely since like 2010, and it's just mean when you do this. You make a big deal about this worldwide live stream,
Well-
and then you only get one person to translate the two people talking at the same time. And oh man, this happened a year ago, and I'm still salty about how they handled that presentation.
You know, if Dragon Quest gains enough traction over here and it's on its way.
I mean, Dragon Quest XI did great by all metrics.
Yeah,
so,
that's that's the thing though. Dragon Quest, as far as mainstream appeal has gone, we had one game that did great. That was 8, and then we had like a couple games that did okay, and then we had one game that did. We need more than one game in a row that does great before they'll
Yeah.
accept that it's like on a roll here.
Yeah, well, then show us freaking Dragon Quest 3 HD. Where the hell is it? You announced this a year ago, and we haven't seen it since. What? Oh man, because it's very easy to sell Dragon Quest 3 to people. It's just like, do you want to play one of the best 8-bit RPGs ever, but it looks like Octopath Traveler? If the answer is yes, then here you go.
Was that
easy sell?
Was that the pixelizer? Did it?
Yeah.
Yes,
It looked like
the
it
weapon
just.
I'm using, so.
It looked like it just censored the enemy.
kind of, yeah. But I mean, as far as Square goes, the only thing we know, like, right, they have like a bunch of smaller stuff, but all we know about the bigger stuff is that Dragon Quest 12 exists, and
Yeah, they were like,
16 is close to completion, but they aren't showing it for whatever reason.
There's a rumor that looks fairly credible that there's a trailer that's completed and it's going to be shown off at like the next what was that event?
Summer Games Fest.
That one, yes.
Is that like replacement E3 now that E3 is dead?
Functionally, yes.
Okay, good.
I mean, yes. But also Microsoft is doing their own thing that week. Nintendo's probably going to do their own thing that week. Sony probably will do something in June.
You see, I'm glad that game journalists no longer have to pay LA hotel prices for a week every year just to see demos that you can just send people over the internet. Like,
Look, if
Good riddance
everyone
to
in
E3.
if everyone in the universe just boycotted LA hotels for 2 days, I guarantee the price of living in that state would drop precipitously.
let's do it.